There we go. And I'm waiting for my record button here. Good. Okay. Excellent. Yay, we're here. Wonderful. Welcome everybody to Discovering the Hidden Knowledge of Sacred Structures and Earth Energies and How They Affect the Human Body. I am so honored and pleased to be interviewing Dominique Suzani and Karen Crowley Suzani today. They are the founders of Energetic Geometry, and maybe in advance you checked out their website because I'd had that information in the meetup. So this is my Temple Loam community. I'm Lorie Solay, and I'm so happy this community is actually growing because I think people are really interested in spiritual development, and that relates to earth energies. That relates to how do we connect back to the cycles of the earth? How do we connect back to what the ancients knew? And that's the conversation we're having today. So, you know, you may know a little bit about me, but it's always nice to put something up. My name is Lorie Solay with Solay Creative. I'm a mental mastery and spiritual development coach. And I am super, super into earth energies because I've been able to feel it when I was a child. I mean, even as I was little, I could sense and feel the energies around me, and I could see all of the unseen realms. It was pretty powerful. So as an adult, I've really worked to get back to that knowing and that knowledge, because we sort of get conditioned out of it. We're sort of told that these things don't really exist. You're just feeling things, or no, you're just imagining. It's magical thinking. Well, today, when I talk to Karen and Dominique, you're going to see that that is not the case. They're going to explain that. So I'm going to stop share and welcome Karen and Dominique. Thank you so much for being here. How would you like to begin?
Saying hello, how are you?
Hello. Hello.
Hello. Hello, Eileen. Hello, Gary. How are you?
Oh, wonderful. I'm so glad that you have, yeah, you've got wonderful.
So,
Well, tell us where you are right now, by the way.
what we are? We are people that try to instruct other people about energetic geometry.
Excellent. How did you get into this? How did you both get into this? I know there was a little bit of a bio, but I'd love to start that way. How did you start doing this work?
Oh, it's a big story. It's a very long story. It begins by a dream when I was 6 years old, about 4 rivers crossing in an island, and I wanted to build my house at the crossing of the rivers. And then after a lot of adventures, I realized that after meeting some people, like my first instructor, a veterinary guy, very famous in France. His name was Henri Quiquendone, and he was the founder of veterinary homeopathy. And he was a kind of druid, kind of modern, we're going to say modern druid, okay? And so I met that guy because my wife in this period, I made a gift to her, a horse, and she wanted to find a good veterinary for the horse, you know. So she met people, etc. And she went to a farm where the guy had a kind of stone in a field, and with a rope around the stone, a rope around the stone, and she asked, why this rope around the stone? What happens with that? And the guy said, the veterinary settle a stone, a menhir, to to make the grass grow better on the field, okay, of better quality of grass, okay. And the horses, they like so much this stone, so they want to they want to go to rub their skin on the stone, and they are going to destabilize, to move the stuff. So I put a rub around for keeping them away, okay. And so and so and so my wife said, okay, I want a stone like that in my fields. And so she got the guy, the veterinary, and the guy came at home. He was a very rough guy, you know. And so he came. He said to me, switch off the electricity of the house. I say, okay. So he took his dowsing rods, and so he began to walk, you know, in the fields, you know. And okay, I follow him with a stake. And at the moment, 10 minutes after, 15 minutes after, he stopped somewhere, the dowsing rod cross, and he said, you put the stake here. Okay, I put the stake there. And after we came back at home, we had a lunch. We gave a lot of wine to the guy, to the fantastic people now. So he began to talk, and he said, okay, yes, I'm going to die. I'm going to die soon, he said. Oh, and I say, you're going to die soon? Oh, you should give us some classes before you die for transmit your knowledge, you know. And he said, yes, it's possible. And it was a kind of hook he had for that, you know, for the classes.
That was his sales pitch.
After. And so he began to give classes to, we were a group of 15 people, around 15 people. And during 2-3 years, he was teaching us about stones, energies, dowsing roads, churches, and etc., etc. And after that, he gave me the address of another instructor, but that was a master builder, an engineer, electrical engineer, that was also a master builder. And I began to learn geometry, the ancient geometry. And after that, I began to do some classes with my master. And now I'm doing that.
That is that's a wonderful story, because there's so much we can unpack in there. I want to make sure that we're talking about, you know, the polarity of rocks and how they affect the land, and the dowsing rods and the master builders. But first, I'd love to ask Karen how she got started. Karen, you want to kind of share, because you have an interesting background too. You know, you were in the Air Force.
I was in the Air Force. I was a pilot. I flew for Pan Am. And then I got pregnant, had babies, and kind of got grounded.
Oh, no. Okay. Oh.
That's okay.
You got grounded, literally grounded. You got grounded.
Literally grounded. And my husband at the time and I, he was a pilot, and we moved to, changed his, we were changing his domicile. So we decided to move to Boulder. And I had a 3-month-old and a 1.5-year-old. So he went to look for the houses by himself. And he found the perfect house for himself. Well, what he thought was a perfect house. It was on a cul-de-sac. It had a big backyard. It was big enough house for us to grow in. And I didn't see the house. So we drove to the house, unpacked everybody. I looked outside and went, uh-oh, because there was huge power lines in back of my house. So that was my quest to figure out how to change the energy of my house, because it was pretty buzzy and stressful. And so I tried a whole bunch of different things: feng shui, I tried space clearing, I tried working with the devas, and nothing was strong enough to really hold the energy. And then I saw some weird email pass through my box, and it was Druid Geomancy. I was like, oh wow, that sounds cool. Druid Geomancy. It was the first class I took with Dominique.
Oh my goodness.
It was a 1,000 class, and he started teaching about earth energies, and you could actually feel them, and there was geometry and big stones, and I love stones, and I was hooked. So I invited them to Boulder to teach, because I wanted to learn what he had to teach. And that began our relationship with classes. You know, I organized classes for him to come to Colorado for 15, 16, 17, 18 years, something like that.
Yeah,
I don't know. Kind of, yeah, because I was fascinated with this stuff.
Well, it's, again, we are so disconnected from it, right? We've gone off into the analytical mind, and we've completely gone out of body and not paid attention to our senses, you know, and the clairsentient, you know, our abilities, our intuitive abilities. And what you said about the power lines, gosh, I know so many people that can relate to that, especially in an urban environment. I have the same thing outside. I walk outside and there's this big, it's across the street. And as soon as I walk out my door, like I just see it and feel it. And I had my gardener, my tree is sort of lopsided. It's kind of growing in that direction to kind of block it. Like, I don't even want to look at it, but most people can relate to that. And that's sort of the struggle, right? With how those kinds of EMF fields are affecting, and the geopathic stress, which we can talk about, how that's impacting our nervous system. First, I'd love to start with what are the master builders? I mean, how did the ancients use this information? Because I know that that's where this comes from, right? We're talking about the Knights Templar. We're talking about I'm spacing on the name, and it's here, but it was related to the geometry and creating the buildings. So let's share more about that, please.
What is the question exactly?
Master builders.
Who were the master builders?
Yep.
Who were the master builders? The master builders, for me, are first. The art of the master builder comes first from the shamans. I say that because the shamans are the only people I saw and I met that are able to sense the rings of energies of the different elements. It's the only people I met that were able to do that. Okay, and so for us master builders is it's the basement. The elements are the basement of our art techniques, etc. You know, so I think in the prehistory, the first master builder were the shamans. And I found in caves in France, for example, in a cave in the Lot Valley in Pêche-Merle is the name. I found kind of column of energy in the one part of the cave, a big column of energy, which was a shamanic column of energy, like like you, you can think about a column of energy made by a yogi, for example, a yoga master, for example. They have the kind of same quality, not exactly the same quality, but kind of, okay? And so this big column of energy was in relation with nets. We call nets some energies coming from the center of the earth. And so this is one of our tools. We call that the natural net, and the natural net is it's a network of thermical and waves. We're going to say waves coming from the core of the earth. You know that the core of the earth is made of crystal of iron, and the crystal of iron are cubic. Okay.
That's telluric. Is that what you said?
No.
Cubic.
They form
They form cubes. Okay.
Got it. Okay.
And there is another thing. When you compress, when you press something very, very hard, you obtain square waves. Okay, seems a little bit weird to talk about square waves, because people used to see sinus waves, etc. But there are square waves and cubic waves that are produced by the compression. And so you know that the core of the earth is very compressed. Okay. And so you have a reaction from the core that makes that he spread a square and cubic net all around, and that goes to the surface, and we can feel that. Some people can see that there are golden nets that are according with the latitude. For example, in the equator, they measure 9 meters and 0.8. For example, in the place of Colorado Boulder, for example, they measure 7 meters 66, for example. And in Paris is 6 meters 50, something like that, etc. So they change of dimension according with the latitude.
Okay. Yes, I understand. And are these the Hartmann nets that you talk about?
No.
Okay.
No,
so
I'm not talking about Hartmann nets. I'm talking about natural nets or solar nets.
Okay.
These solar nets were well known by the Hopi, for example. When you read, for example, the book of Don Talayesa was the name of the guy, the writer. Uh, what was the
I can't remember.
Hopi Son?
The Hopi Son.
Hopi Son.
Hopi Son, okay.
In one part of this book, he says, the author says that the woman, when a child born, the mother goes to the path of the sun to show his baby, to present his baby. And the path of the sun are the solar nets or natural nets that are bigger during the day and more little during the night.
Okay.
But those are not the Harman nets. For us, the Harman nets are technological nets.
Got it. Okay. Thank you for clarifying that, because
No,
that's important.
I have to finish to clarify that.
Yes.
For us, the Harman net are the produce of the contamination of electricity in the land. And with my master Raymond, we went to islands in the north of Britain, Scotland, Orkney Islands, where there were not any house, any electricity power plant or nothing. And these kind of nets, Harman nets or Curry nets, don't exist there.
Okay.
So that means where you don't have electricity, you don't have Harman nets or Curry nets. You have only solar and natural nets. It's important. It's important because a lot of people think that the Harman nets are natural. They are not.
Okay. I'm so glad you clarified that, because when we talk about even helping people understand how important it is to go back to nature and to get outside, because not only does it begin to calm the nervous system, probably because you're dealing with less of the electrical field, but you also can really connect with the Schumann resonance, and you can, start to slow your brain waves down. So part of this work is to do that, isn't it? It's to mitigate all the EMF fields and the electrical fields that we're subjected to, especially in urban environments. Would you agree?
It's complicated because you have to know first that the master builders of, for example, people they were building cathedrals, for example, they didn't have electricity, okay, and so they didn't have the tools to work with electricity. But the modern ones, we notice when we do what we call a solstitial quadrilateral somewhere, and that's in relation with the Harman nets. When we do a solstitial quadrilateral, which means when we settle the rhythm of the sun at the latitude where you are, putting big stones, for example, putting a lot of things, but heavy things at the corners, you notice that the Harman nets disappear. The natural nets are always there, but the Harman nets, they disappear. The Curry nets disappear. And so it's for that reason we say Harman nets, Curry nets are for us a kind of, they show the range of contamination of the place. Okay? when we make the pattern of the solstitial quadrilateral, that we call that the pattern of the sun, okay, the armanets disappear, and you install a kind of ambience where the energy of the earth and the energy of the sun are balanced.
Okay.
Okay?
Yeah.
And we say it's an harmonic place. And here you are a little bit protected against electricity.
Okay. Even though you're in, and I know that, you know, in a little bit, we'll talk a little bit about some of the tools that you use inside the home. But I know that, you know, the home, obviously within the walls, you've got electricity running through the whole house. So if you were to create something, a solstitial quadrilateral, and I had to really learn how to say that. That's a hard one to say. Solstitial quadrilateral. Your
Comes from
home,
solstice.
yes, totally. So that will mitigate the electrical fields within the home as well.
So again,
That will mitigate the
You're
what?
going to make me say
Solstitial quadrilateral. Yes, it protects a little bit, but you know what you have to understand is that the electricity you are dealing with is how you say that, AC electricity, okay?
Yes.
And this electricity change of polarity in United States, for example, 60 times by second, okay? And this is an invention that did a nice guy, but he didn't realize what kind of mess he was doing. His name was Tesla, Nikola Tesla.
Oh, I think I've heard of him.
You heard about him. You heard about him. He's very famous. We don't know exactly why, because we don't have a lot of proof about what he did. But what we know really is that when these people that began to sell electricity in the beginning of the century, the 20th century, they had a big problem, because to transport DC electricity, you need very, very big wires, very big, very big. Things like bigger than my arm. It's not very big, but bigger than that. Okay, and so you can imagine that copper wires like that, you know, hanging or going back in the ground was not very possible, you know, for transporting electricity. So they asked to the fantastic Nikola Tesla how we can do that, how we can transport electricity. And he say, you know, there is a possibility. You have to change the polarity of the electricity, and they create the AC electricity. Okay. And so with the AC electricity, you can transport big amounts of electricity with very, very little wires, okay? And so the problem is that the human body and all the living structures on Earth, they work with electricity, but they work with DC electricity. And for example, you have for example the lightnings. You have around 5,000 of lightnings each day on the Earth. Okay, and they feed the Earth with electricity. Okay, and this electricity goes by the water veins, by the falls, by the places where that offer to the electricity the less resistance. Okay, the less resistance is water, mostly water, and the faults, the fluids, the ionic fluids in the faults and gases, etc. And so electricity goes by there, and so that feed the earth. Okay, and the problem is the AC, this DC electricity is okay. We feel that, we work with that, we are able, our bodies are made to work with, okay? We need that. But AC electricity is another problem. AC electricity means that when you are in contact with that, your cells, they need to switch, okay? Switch the polarity 60 times by second, okay? And so this is bad, because the cells are going to become very tired, they work well, but they become tired after some times, if you, for example, when you have your head beside the wall, when you sleep, for example, you have electrical wires passing across the wall, okay? And so your head is bathing in an electrical ambience that is always changing, that it's always yes, it's always changing of polarity, and so your head and the cells of your head have to deal with that, okay? And they do their job, etc., etc. But after 5 years, 10 years, they saturate of that because it's too much, and you begin to have some weird diseases like for example, depressions, you begin to have a kind of Alzheimer things, weird things, weird things that appear. My first instructor, Kikandon, was dealing with the electricity of when he was working, he had to deal with the new disease that were appearing in the, how you call that, the places where they are growing chickens, big places, chicken coops, big chicken coops with, with a lot of electricity inside. And he said, I never saw that diseases. They are totally weird. And so this guy began to put grounding to that chicken coop, and the disease disappeared.
Wow. So these are the big farming, sort of like big commercial farming.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
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 That was in the 60s. Okay.
Wow. So when we think about, again, being in an urban environment, and part of why I wanted to share the work that you do today is that there are things we can do right there. And that was part of what I was hoping that we would talk about. And I want to drop into the work of connecting to the land, because I know that you also do things in the home to help people with these electrical nets that are impacting us. But I'd love to talk a little bit about the solstitial quadrilateral. See, I have to practice it. Let me go to the slide really quickly, because we're talking about the rocks, right? How when we're grounding is a perfect probably segue into this next piece that we're going to discuss. Let me share this really quickly with everybody so that they can see. Let's go to, let's see. So go to my slideshow from the current slide and go to the next one. Okay. So let's launch into this, Dominique. The way that we connect, right? The way that we come back to the ancient knowledge of connecting to these natural nets. How would you like to begin? Because I know we have the menhir and we have the dolmens.
Okay.
Yeah,
okay.
please.
A menhir is a big stone, as you can see. Okay, that one has around 8 meters high. It's from the surface, but you have to count around 3-4 meters more in the earth. And so these stones, they were settled there to work like antennas. Weird antennas, kind of. Weird antennas.
Weird antennas.
There is a law, what that we call 4 laws that are called the Maxwell laws. Okay, and they are about electricity and electromagnetism. And so under the menhir, you have around in this menhir you have three water veins that are crossing. 3 water veins crossing like that. Okay.
No, you gotta go like this.
Right. I have to do like that. So like this, but at a different height. Okay. And that creates what we call a difference of potential between the two, like that. Okay, so between the two water veins that create a difference of potential means that the electrons are going up and down. Okay, and that create a tension, right?
Yes.
And then there is a vortex. There is a big vortex of energy at the crossing. Okay, so these guys, they choose first good water. Okay, good water. Some of the water, one kind of water was carrying an information of fertility. Another of the water was carrying an information, for example, of, we are going to say 7 chakra. Okay, and so when you approach to that stone, you are going to feel that your 2nd chakra is going to open and your 7th chakra too. So you are going to feel all the line of the chakras and what we call the central channel inside your body. Okay.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
So there are several waters, okay, crossing. Okay, you have a sense of the water. The water runs in one sense and runs in the other sense. When you have 2 things that met, two energies that cross like that, you understand? They create a vortex.
So these are power spots. That's what they would talk, the sacreds would talk about as power spots. Is that right?
They take about spots, yes, but they talk. Excuse me. They talk about spots. We talk about vortexes. It's the same thing. Okay.
Good. Yes.
That are wiring energies. Okay. And you can feel that at the surface. They have different colors. You can have some from black to crystalline, for example. Blacks are not good. Okay.
And can we talk about that for just a moment, where we're discussing how we want to bring in the positive energies, and what you're describing here is a vortex that's pulling from the energies underneath, which are the water lines, and that's been infused with DC energy, right? So that's the natural nets, the solar net information. Is that right?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. So?
Okay. So when we talk about the dark energy, the energy that's harmful, where does that come from? Where's the harmful energy come from?
Just a moment. We're going to finish with that.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Because after that,
Okay.
So this works like an antenna. So the laws of Maxwell, they say when you have a variation of the electric field, okay, that makes a variation in a magnetic field, okay? That creates a variation in the magnetic field. So the land, you have a magnetic field all over the land, several layers of magnetic field, okay? And so that stone, what he's doing is pulsing like an antenna emitting his things, and so you can imagine that like when you drop a pebble in the water, you have rings, okay, and so that stone makes rings of energy, of magnetic energy in the land. It's pulsing that, okay, and it's equilibrating the land, the energy of the land, because where you have water going under the land, the water is like a screen with the good energies of the earth, and so
it blocks it.
It blocks the energy coming from the core of the earth. It blocks the energy, the water, okay? It's like a screen blocking the energy. And so the body, for example, feels that like an aggression. And your thyroid, for example, your thyroid begins to work 3 times more, and your kidneys, your adrenals are working more, 3 times more, and so that creates the effect when you are same effect when you are stressed. Okay.
Okay.
So this is what happens when you are in a water. In a place where is water below. Okay.
Okay. So this veneer there's water underneath it, and it's radiating and pulsing out.
The veneer, what he's doing is taking the electricity of these water veins crossing, okay, and is redistributing this energy on the land.
I see. Okay.
Okay. And what happens is that the grass, when you put a manure like that, the grass begins to grow better. That was the problem with the veterinary and the guy, you remember, of the horse and etc.
Yep.
That was the problem. The veterinary put a stone to make the grass growing better.
Well,
okay?
In that image, the grass looks beautiful there, wherever that is.
And where people in Brittany, for example, they say don't touch the manures. They did, but a lot of farmers, they know that when they have a manure, they don't want to touch it, because they know that the grass is much better in that field than in the others.
Okay, that makes total sense. So water underneath the ground blocks the earth energies, the natural, so it's a natural radiation coming out of the ground, is that right?
From the center of the earth, yes.
You can imagine the core of the earth. Okay, core of the earth is around 2300 2400 kilometers of diameter. Okay, the whole core. And you can imagine that this thing is very hot. It's around 6,000 degrees Celsius degrees. Okay, so you have a kind of radiation of heat first. Okay, but you have also, it creates the electromagnetism of the earth. It creates a lot of things. Okay, a lot of radiations that are coming out to the surface. Okay, and the living structures, they live with these radiations. If you cut part of these radiations, the living structure, they don't feel well.
Like a tree.
Like a lot of leaning trees, for example. Okay, when you see trees leaning like that, for example, they lean like that, and then they go like that, you know.
They grow straight.
They grow straight. Okay, so here is the water vein. So they try to escape first, and when they escape from the when they get the right radiation of the earth, they're happy and they go straight.
That is such a powerful illustration. And I, just from everybody on the call, I've taken the online classes with Dominique and Karen, and they go into great detail about this, because I know we're coming up, we've got about 10 minutes left on the call, and I had other questions for you. Part of this is to also let people know that they can go to these classes. They're super affordable, and you go into the science, and you show lots of images. Like, I know the images of some of the trees that were on in an unhealthy spot that had cancer growths on them. The leaning, now when I walk in nature, I look for leaning trees, and this is how the ancients did it, isn't it? They would find these spots, or they would watch where the animals would go and maybe sleep at night or have their babies, to know where to find these powerful healthy spots. Is that right?
Yeah. For example, you have the nomads, for example. Nomads, for example, they use to look where the dogs are going to lay down, or the horses, and they say, okay, we're going to put our little house tent there, because this is the right spot, the right place.
On the opposite end, I know, I'm sure it was in your training, you talked about certain animals like cats that can lay in places that aren't necessarily good for humans, or when you find insect nests like ants or wasps where they're building their nests, indicates the harmful energy for humans.
Wasp, they like good energies, but ants, they are following the faults.
The fault lines, okay.
The fault lines, yes.
Got it.
And the cats, what they do is they transform the energy with their skin.
That is so interesting. Okay, so they can lay. So is it true then, where they're laying and sleeping could be a place where it's not necessarily good for humans?
Absolutely.
Okay, so they gravitate towards that energy that's harmful to humans. They can take it and transmute it, but where they go. So
Yes, and I'm not a fan of cats, you know. Um, no, because I think they are big predators, and I read, for example, I read few months ago that in France, 25% of little animals are killed by cats.
Mm.
And it's a disaster, you know. But okay, but they have their good sides, you know. They have their good sides, for
Yes.
example. And when you have a good cat, okay, you have good relation, you develop good relation with the cat. He feels where when you are ill, and for example, he tries to heal you. For example, if you have a problem of on your intestines, for example, they come here on your to sit, to lay on your body, on your belly, and they with the, how you call that,
They're purring when they purr.
yes, that thing, okay, and with their skin they are transforming the energies and they are healing you, okay.
Aw.
So they could be nice, okay.
Oh, well, that's so good. So those are some really cool little tidbits, and I'm glad that we had a chance to talk about how the rocks work with the land and why they're important. Let's talk about the solstitial quadrilateral, because again, we have about 5 minutes. We can go over, for if you're willing to go over, we can. I just want to make sure that we're getting,
No,
most
no,
people
we
expecting an
can
hour.
go over more. It's not a problem.
Okay, okay. So the
Okay.
solstitial quadrilateral.
So you have one here. You know, you have
The stone one.
the stone one.
So it's the third. It's the third small picture from the right. Yeah, that one right there.
This one.
This
Okay.
one. This one. It's solstice, maybe the most ancient solstice quadrilateral that I know. Maybe there are others. Okay, and it's a powerful place. It's if for people that uh, are mad of place of power, and yes, because there are things about that too, you know. So the center of this place, is very powerful, and so it shows at the corners. It shows the summer solstice sunrise and winter solstice sunrise, and yes, those corners, and show also the winter solstice sunset and the summer solstice sunset too. So this is a solstitial quadrilateral, okay?
Which is represented here in this diagram. So you're talking
Yes,
about, right?
yes.
Okay, perfect.
It's made with big stones, and these big stones they make a grid, a net, a special net also, okay. And of course you have water crossings under the solstitial quadrilateral of Krukuno. This is Krukuno, the name that give power to the structure too.
So
So with yes.
so this, and that makes so much sense as you described the natural nets and the solar nets versus the Hartman and the Curry nets. So when you're working with the geometry based on somebody's location, is that right?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. We work with the rhythm of the sun of the location. Okay, why we work with this rhythm? Why we our ancestors, you know, that structure of Kukuno is 4,000 years before Christ. Okay,
Wow.
it's before the Celts. It's not a Celt structure. A lot of people think that the stones are Celt. The stones are not Celt. The Celts were in the forest. The shrines of the Celts were the old trees. It's a different culture. And these guys, they knew the place of each stone in the land. And they were connecting all the stones of the land. Because they knew that with this connection, they were arranging the energy of the land. And
So not
people, yeah?
So not only were they creating the solstitial quadrilateral, but they also put it in a place where it radiated that energy out to all the stones, because they talk about the geometry of all these
Oh,
sacred sites on the
it's
planet.
it's very complicated. That
Yes.
okay, and so they create, for example, this solstitial quadrilateral. This one, for example, it's what that we call a three by four, a rectangle of 3 by 4, which at the same time, if you take the diagonal, is 5, and the rectangle is called 3, 4, 5, and it was the first tool to create right angles. For example, the ancient master builders, they had a rope. You remember in the movies the rope of the monks.
The robe of the monks, the rope?
The
No,
No,
ropes,
rope
ropes.
that
the
they wear
ropes.
around their waist.
Yeah, they
Yes,
around
okay.
their waist.
Yes.
Yes, they were wearing that because they were hemp ropes, and the hemp ropes they cut the energy, or they concentrate the energy, and they protect from the telluric
Energies.
energies.
The robes
And
that they
at
wore
the same
cut,
time,
A hemp rope.
so the hemp robes would cut the energies, would protect them, so it was a
So
protection?
it protects them from the energies of the earth. So from the water veins and the faults and stuff like that.
How interesting, I hadn't heard that. Okay, thank you.
and so after that, so that was an anecdote. But when the master builders, they had a rope with 12
12 spaces,
12 spaces,
equal spaces.
12 equal spaces, okay, and they use that to make the right angles, okay, because if you take three spaces, 4 spaces, okay, and you make a rectangle, how you call it, a square with a diagonal of 5, you obtain a right angle, okay, and all the buildings that you can see until the 18th century, they were built with that technique, which is very precise. If you use that in the right way, it's very precise. And so,
Okay, well, just a second. So with the rope, they're using a length, and they tie one knot and then another knot, and so the length relates to the latitude or the rhythm of the sun. And so if you're looking at this solstitial quadrilateral that we have, the blue thing, so the 3, it would be a space of 3 on the short side, a space of 4 on the long side, and then the diagonal would be 5 spaces. So you could see it would be a perfect rectangle. I mean, you could get perfect square or perfect, right angles using that technique. So it'd be 3 by 4 by 5. Does that make sense?
It does. And so the rope that they had around their waist had the measurements. So it was like,
yes, but at the same time, it was protecting them from the energies of the earth.
The Tulur, because if you're feeling the energies of the earth all the time, it's very, very tiring for the body, and it's very tiring and not very good, not very healthy.
okay, so see, I just thought the rope around their waist was like a fashion choice, but you're saying it was like a measurement tool.
Absolutely.
Absolutely.
Okay.
It was a
fashionable measuring tool. A belt.
So I had never heard
It was
that.
a belt.
I
It
hadn't
was a belt for their pants, and at the same time.
Right. So they wore the clothes to protect them, and that's just in general. So you're saying that so that the earth energies in general can be a little bit taxing on the body. So would you tell me more about that, especially related to the monks?
Related to the monks.
Or to the master builders.
So they felt taxed by the earth energies, you're saying, and that's the reason why they created this.
Taxed is it's hard on the body.
Yes. If you develop your sensitivity, okay, you feel the energies when you walk, okay.
I see.
Okay, so if you feel too much energy when you are walking, you can choose to cut your feelings. This is one way, okay? In the ancient time, for example, the master builders, they had that technique of the rope, but all the country people, they put their hand, how you call that, behind
their back.
Behind their back, they put their hands like that, okay, behind their back, like that, behind their back, okay,
mm-hmm.
And on the sacrum, touching the sacrum, okay. And if you do that, you don't feel the energies. You don't feel the energies of the earth.
Okay, thank you. That's a good tip, because I know a lot of people who are very sensitive. And
for example, in the countryside, in Spain, in France, and Italy, for example, you can see old people, the old dudes. They are all walking with their hands in their back, on the sacrum, and you think, this is a habit they have, you don't know why, but in fact it's a habit in relation with energies.
Oh, that's so interesting, because I've seen that posture and it just looks so casual. It looks so, they're just strolling down the street, but they're actually using so kind of a circuitry, I would say, sort of like a mudra, right?
So you have your hands like that, okay?
Uh-huh.
Okay. If you do that with your fist, okay, you are cutting the energy, and if you do that, you are going to feel. If you do that, you cut. If you do that, you feel. Okay, it's a trick.
That's a wonderful trick. I love that. I like simple techniques to help people, because again, there's a lot of people, the circles that I run in, people are very sensitive. This is the work that we do together. But then there are people that aren't conscious that they feel it. One of the trainings that you share in one of your trainings, I think it was the solstitial quadrilateral, you had an image of a body, and there were the specific what were they called again? They were the
magnetosomes.
magnetosomes, right? And they were
magnetosomes.
yeah. Would you share something about that? That was really interesting.
The magnetosomes are cells that have a kind of metal
Magnetite.
Exactly.
magnetite, okay, and you have that in all the body, in fact, but you have some concentrations, more concentration here on your brow line, for example. You have on the neck, you have in your here in that zone of your, okay, you have in your kidneys, in the zone of the kidneys, you have
back your knees,
and back in your knees, you have
big toe,
you have also on the heel, and those are the places where traditionally you have more concentration.
So,
And this is one of the tools that you use when you dowse. When you dowse, your dowsing rods are giving you the reaction of your cells.
that's so interesting. That's so fascinating. I'm so glad we talked about that piece, because there was a joke one time. We talked, my friend, we were joking about how some people have better direction than others. And she was telling me about how birds have these trace minerals in their beak that help them follow the magnetic lines. So we used to joke, I have good direction. And she's like, okay, you've got good trace mineral deposits in your beak, right? So we would joke. But the truth is, that really is, we have these receptors, but some people have more than others. Would you say? I mean, we all develop differently. So that would mean why some people are more sensitive than others. Yes?
There are people that are more sensitive than others, but everybody is sensitive. Okay, so it's true that you have guys that are fantastic. I knew a guy who felt the quality of the water in his mouth.
Wow, that is impressive.
But for us, it was bad for us. For him, for him it was bad, because when we were working together, you know, we tried to find first with the guys of the crew. We tried to find the septic tank, you know, and we called guy, we called the guy to come there. But
oh no! Oh goodness, yes. That would be a curse.
Yeah, it was funny, not for him, but no.
That wouldn't be funny at all.
To say that there are people that are amazing, fantastic. They see colors in the land. They see the lines. You know, they see the auras of the trees, of the people. Others that they feel, you know, a lot of things. People that hear things, that have a kind of clear audience.
Yes.
Okay. People that can talk with the stones, with the trees, etc. You're amazing. You have a lot of amazing people on earth.
We really, and that is one of the things that I would love us to talk about as we're starting to wrap up. What suggestions do you have for people in order to increase their sensitivities? Because as you say, we all have it. We all have this ability to tap in our own way. What would you suggest?
I think the best is to make some kind of exercise each day of for 5 minutes, it's enough. It's just it's just more attention in your mind, and attention in your mind to develop that. Okay, and then you can feel with your hands. I remember when I began to feel the energies. I had another instructor. He was a countryman, and he was a funny guy, very old guy of 80 years old, and he was feeling the energies with the knees, for example, and when he was near a water vein, he felt the knees, the tendons of his legs, contracting, and he how you say, he was
So his knees would
Also kind of collapse, sort of.
yeah, a
a
little
little
bit.
a
Yeah,
little
there we
bit
go.
a little bit.
Yeah.
And so he was also able to feel the energies, and once we were on a dolmen. It was not a dolmen exactly, it was a seat, a special seat. We call that in that land, in the Lord country, we call the seat of justice. And he told me, here there is a net, there is a sacred net, and you can feel it, And so I put my hand there, because I didn't believe that guy, So I put my hand there, and I felt a kind of electricity. It's not electricity, it's like tingling, going up in my arm, until my shoulder. Okay, and I say, what's that? And I try several times, same result, and I say, I am a blind guy. I am blind. I cannot see those things. I'm like so I'm going to develop to touch the energy with my hands. And I began like that. I began developing, the sensitivity of my hands, my body, and then you realize after that you increase your vibration. Okay, and you increase your vibration, and then you begin to see things that you never saw.
I think that the part that's so powerful that you're expressing here is that what you said is, I'm a blind man. And I love that, because that is so true for so many people, that when you think about what we can see on the light spectrum, it's just a fraction of what's really out there. So
Yeah.
The unseen realms, and when we can let go of the analytical mind and stop questioning, did I really feel that? Right? Just notice, as you say, just pay attention and start to feel it, because what I experienced is it's very subtle at first.
Yes, it's so subtle that you think, this is not real. Okay.
Right.
And then with the training, it becomes so strong that you say, okay, this is real. And what about the other things,
Right.
What is reality? Okay.
Exactly. Like you said too, just being able to see the aura. So if somebody has the ability to see the aura, that means they've expanded their perception of the light frequency, or the energy frequency. So it's so possible. And I'm so excited, because that really is where we're at now. We're at the frontier of understanding that we are so much more. We have so much more capacity, especially when we start to
of course.
Release
And
stress.
I began to develop the vision, but I am an old guy, you know, it's difficult. It's difficult. But I remember the first time I saw the energies of the trees, for example. That was that was a kind of how do you call that, satori, you know, satori, you know, a moment of contemplation, a total contemplation. I was there. Look, it was a poplar, you know. You know what is a poplar?
Poplar tree, yes.
Tall, a tall guy. There was some wind, and I began to see the aura of the trees and the waves of energy of the leaves and the how you call
The branches.
the branches, the branches, like ribbons. And I
Wow.
and I began to think, Van Gogh was painting like that, you know. This guy was seeing the energies as I'm seeing the energies now, you know. What, that's fantastic. This guy was doing that, maybe, you know. And 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 okay, and you know, you have some moments where you can see and moments where you cannot see, and then it's like you have moments you can feel, you cannot feel, but little by little you enter in the dimension of the feeling, of the vision, etc. And but there are people that they are there, you know. For example, I have one of my sons. He sees all the things, you know, but he didn't made any training.
That's, and children, when we think about children, you know, and I love being with kids because they are immersed in it. And both my kids have pretty special abilities. And my younger son, when he was really young, he had some moments where it kind of freaked him out because he sort of went out of body and he started seeing the geometric shapes. And maybe we'll schedule another call to talk about sacred geometry. But he could see in these fractal forms. And he walked up to my older son one day, and my son was standing there, and my younger son walks up and pokes him in the cheek, and he goes, "You got a triangle on your cheek," and he poked him. And my older son says, "He's so weird," but he could see, you know.
Yes.
And I keep like asking him, "What were you seeing?" So I keep it alive for him.
Yes, and the kids they don't like that, because the other kids, they say he's so weird, and this is a big problem.
I know.
It's a big
In
problem.
my household, they are free to, we've always talked about it. We've been very connected to nature. We love Lord of the Rings and some of these other fantastical movies, right? So we would be out in the forests playing and fighting orcs. So we've really stayed in that imaginative place. But you're right, it gets shut down, you know, the kids that have these abilities early on, and people don't know how to manage them. So I would love to, I think we covered it. We talked about the energies, why it's important, right? Why the structures were important, what the master builders know, why we're working with the solstitial quadrilateral in order to bring in the more natural harmonic energies. I want to share, I'm not going to ask you about them because I want people to go to your training and find out why, but these are two very special tools I want to show people on the call. If you want to know about these tools, go to their online training, right?
So this
So,
that. Yes.
yeah, so I am so thankful. I'm so thankful that you guys took the time, especially while you're traveling, to talk to me. I would love to keep talking about this. I would love to keep interviewing you because I know there's just so much, like Dominique said, it's complicated. There's a lot to know. So I'm going to go back to share my screen really quickly because I want everybody to see the stuff at the end. Let's go to the slideshow from the current. Oops. Okay, so here we are at the end of our beautiful call with the two of you, blessing you, having you have such a beautiful time in Prague. And for all the rest of you, here is the information about Karen and Dominique. This is their website, Energetic Geometry, and the online classes that they offer, very affordable, and dive deep into the information that we were talking about today. The Solstitial Quadrilateral, amazing training. I just signed up. I have to get into it actually. The trees and the energetics and spirituality of trees, and then stone energies and sacred places. All of these things go deep, deep into the information that both Dominique and Karen bring to the world. So thank you so much. Let me stop sharing and see your beautiful faces on the camera. Thank you so much.
Just a little thing. There is a person here watching who is Gary White. He's a very great man, and he wrote a book. Which is the title is The Dowsing Mind, and is a very good book.
Oh, Gary,
simple but clear, a nice, very nice book.
Gary, do you
well, I studied with you first.
Thank you.
Do you have your book, Gary, that you can show us right by? You know, good author always has the book right by them, right? So they can go, oh, by the way.
I wasn't expecting to get a plug here. Ellen.
You know, it's a surprise.
Yeah.
Totally. Here we are.
Oh, wonderful, wonderful.
Yeah.
Okay, and we can find that.
Yeah, just look.
Yes.
Yeah, there we go.
Yeah. One more. The dowsing. Little.
There
yes,
you go. There
we
we
go.
Mind.
The Dowsing Mind. Wonderful.
It's a very nice book. It's a
Thank you.
nice book for people who wants to learn how to dowse.
Wonderful.
Increase their sensitivity too.
Yes.
Well, everybody on the call realizes that we have these tools within us, right? We're a little sort of antenna that can read and feel everything around us. Now I think I'm going to have to go make myself a hemp robe and a little rope tie around my waist and walk around town, and people are going to look at me like I'm crazy. But so thank you so much. I'm so happy to be here with both of you. I am just thank you for all that you do and that you took the time to talk to me today. And let's continue the conversation.
Okay.
Sound good?
Okay.
Thank you very
Thank
much.
you very much.
All right.
Bye.
Thank you.
Bye.
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 Bye.